Hello and welcome to the Happy Little Futures podcast. As always, let's begin with a nice deep breath in and out. Fantastic. So this may or may not go well. We shall find out. The kids are currently in bed. They've had quite a few unsettled nights recently, and I thought I'll just risk it. So we'll see what happens. But I have 3,000 things that I was going to talk to you about today. 3,000 pretty much. That I was like, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do the other. And ultimately, actually what I'm going to talk about is just where I'm at with the little things that I'm doing throughout my day. My passion really lies in integrating meditation and mindfulness into my day, into your day, into children's days to help sort of support mental health. And I very much feel that the more you integrate little things into children's day when they're young, the more it can help support them throughout their life. And actually, quite often I see a big difference between my three with the ages that I sort of brought it in. So my eldest, I brought it in when she was about 2.5, 3-ish. Youngest, middle one was 1-ish, and youngest from birth. And today my eldest, as I was putting her to bed, she said, I've got lots of bad thoughts in my head, Mummy, and I can't get rid of them. And I was like, oh, that's really hard. Let me help you. She said, normally, I breathe and I put all my thoughts on a cloud and I blow them away. She said, and it's just not working today. And I said, that's so lovely that you're still doing that. I said, I remember teaching you that. I mean, we're talking sort of like 2 or 3 years ago that I did that with her. And she was like, yeah, she was like, I thought I'd taught myself it. I thought I came up with it myself. I was like, no, that was one of the first things that I taught you. And I think I used to do it with her regularly, and then she got sort of resistant to it. I quite often talk about sort of how there will come a point where that child doesn't want to do what you tell them to. And so I thought that she'd just stop doing it. It turns out actually she's carried on doing it and doing it herself in her own time in a way that suits her and when she needs it, which I think is quite an incredible thing. And I think it's just sort of helped to sort of bring home really the importance of those little things that you do throughout your day. We've got a lot of big emotions in this house at the moment. My husband's been away a lot with work. That in itself has been an adjustment. We've also had a school change, which has been a big adjustment, which I may or may not say for another podcast. We've had, with that, obviously, there's been changes in friendships, new environments to get used to, new routines to get used to, missing friends, making new friends on all of our accounts. There's been a lot of big changes, and there are a lot of big emotions going on, in me as much as in the kids. So we've also got 3 very different children, and their interests are different. How they speak, like to each other and to you or me or whoever, is different depending on the child. They're extremely different children. Their coping mechanisms are very different. The things that we do with them to help them in moments are very different and very tailored. And trying to keep up with that is a challenge. And at the moment, we've got 3 children that are going through very different mental leaps, I would call them, possibly. My youngest is extremely stubborn at the moment, or headstrong, or whatever positive way of driving me insane with not listening you can possibly think of. Feel free to fill in the gaps there. She's definitely going through something at the moment. Where she's got it from, I don't know, but we quite often have, I can do what I want. And it's like, well, whilst I understand you feel that way, actually we're by a busy road and I need to keep you safe right now, and the way to do that is to hold your hand and to make sure we're all together, and things like that. We're having a lot of those conversations, and it is extremely difficult. It is about everything. She's up in the middle of the night telling me it's time to go downstairs and I can do what I want, and I'm like, I haven't slept in 3 weeks because you've been doing this that long, and like, Daddy's not been here. No, you need to stay in bed now. And we're having a lot of, it's that in itself is exhausting, trying to maintain boundaries, trying to sort of teach sort of at the same time that no, it's because I need to keep you safe. I'm not trying to be a horrible person. I need to keep you safe. We need to stay safe. And all of that sort of stuff. It's really, really difficult. My son is going through a phase of not wanting to do what you ask when you ask, and very much sort of a struggle with transitions for him. So mostly around getting dressed. It doesn't matter whether it's getting dressed for school, whether it's getting dressed for bed, whether it's getting dressed to go to a party. He excuse me because I forgot to put my phone on silent. So whatever he is getting changed for, good or in his eyes bad, he struggles with that. And that is making things very difficult because life isn't slowing down for him to do that. So we still have to get out of the house by 20 to 25 past 8 in the morning. We still have to get into bed by a certain time so he's not exhausted the next day, and all these sorts of things. And that is proving a massive challenge, and trying to help him in understanding. Incentives is the wrong word because it's not always incentives that he needs, but trying to support him through those transitions is extremely difficult, whilst not completely losing my mind and screaming and shouting. It's hard. It's really, really hard. So that is really challenging. Before I carry on, I just want to thank our sponsor, Rowan Fox Clothing, and they are a sustainable clothing brand, and all their designs are absolutely gorgeous. They're hand drawn. They're just wonderful, and you can find their selection of organic clothing at rowanfox.com. Definitely head over to Facebook and Instagram as well and look at Rowan Fox, and you can find her there. Absolutely gorgeous designs. So that's my son anyway. And my eldest is, in general, is a million times better than before we moved to school. We were having a lot of very physical things going on, a lot of sort of jumping around. She's a lot calmer, she's a lot happier in herself. However, as I've already said, like the big emotions going on, she can be fine 1 second and you can think that you're talking to her, and then suddenly she flips and she's out the room, she shut the door, she's stormed off to her bedroom, and I don't know why half the time. That's an experience. She's also at a stage where she can see that I'm trying to set boundaries. She can see that the reason why we are doing things, she understands that, but she's now trying to set the boundaries for me, tell the kids, like, come on, we need to get dressed because we can do this, or if you get dressed you can have a lollipop, and it's like, no, I've never said that, and I have no lollipops, and they've just brushed their teeth, so actually no, that's not something that you can promise. And so then it's a power struggle. I don't like the phrase power struggle, but it does feel like there's a bit of a, like, almost who's top dog, who's going to help, who's going to do this right, blah 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 sort of thing. That's hard, and because she's doing that, then my son is sort of fighting back with her quite a lot, and there's a lot of raised voices. Trying to find a level playing field in this house at the moment is very difficult. trying to reset myself is extremely difficult. There is not much time to do so, let alone like space in the house and all of that. So that's very difficult. So I'm doing a few little things throughout my day anyway to try and help me. One of them is I have set loads of boundaries of my own on my phone, sort of stopped it so that I can't access social media at certain times. I'm currently talking to you and my phone is in grayscale mode because from 8:30 or 9ish or something I can't look at my phone in colour, and things like that. Just little changes that I've made to my phone and little ways in which I've adjusted the way that my phone works, just to sort of stop me from going into a bit of a mind sink of Facebook scrolling and Instagram scrolling and all of that sort of stuff. In doing that, I'm managing to take those breaths on the toilet that I've always told you guys about. I hope I've always told you about them. If not, that's a bit of a shock for you. I'm pretty sure I've often mentioned taking some deep breaths first thing in the morning, like when you go to the loo or you're making your coffee first thing. So I'm making the point of doing that, because I'm not sort of getting distracted by a load of guff on my phone and pretty colours. Oh, excuse me. So I'm doing that. I'm trying to drink more cacao. Cacao is something that I've got a sound bath coming up this Saturday, and I'm doing a cacao connection and sound bath after. And cacao is something that it can be fantastic for your mental health. It can be fantastic for supporting you, and for your circulation, for your heart, all sorts of. There's many different things. It's got antioxidant properties. It is really, really good. It's got high magnesium content, I think it is, and that can help you. I'm sure it's magnesium. This is where I start second guessing myself. But it's got high magnesium content, which helps with sort of like you when you're settling down to bed and stuff like that. For me, I also find it helps me to focus. It helps me to just reconnect with myself, open up that heart space, really sort of breathe. And it's a slow process of making it as well. I say slow, it's best, you can make it in many different ways, but it's best to just get a saucepan out and slowly warm it up and melt the chocolate. Well, not the chocolate, it's cacao. So it's sort of raw cacao rather than sweetened chocolate and stuff like that. Sweetened cocoa. So it's different, very different. Said the wrong word. It's very late right now. And I'm very frazzled, and I'm sitting here going, I really need to go make this cacao rather than talk to you about it. But that integrating that into life daily as regularly as I can has made a massive difference. I've also been learning more about myself, whether it's ADHD that I've got or whether it's just me and the way that my brain works. I'm not sure. I'm waiting for an assessment, but in learning more about ADHD itself, I'm starting to recognise things that I do, struggles that I have with sort of my get up and go and all of that sort of stuff, ways in which I manage the house and all of that. I've started to recognise traits and things that I do as actually, this isn't me failing right now and sort of all of that. This is, or being lazy or whatever. This is actually something where I need to fill my cup. This is like, yes, I may not be deep cleaning the house right now when I feel that I need to. However, I am managing to do a post for social media. I am managing to like clear out this corner of the bedroom that I've been avoiding for ages, and now that's my way of avoiding doing the other thing that I should be doing and stuff like that. And rather than so not self-depleting, but rather than the negative self-talk, I'm sort of finding that I can more readily congratulate myself, if that's not the right word, but more easily give myself the well done pat on the back for doing what I have done, and accepting that that's what I needed to do in that moment, and knowing that I will do the other thing at some point, if like when I can, but that right now actually I can't mentally face that, and that's okay. So I've been doing a lot more sort of self-connection, what's the word I've used it, but self-compassion and stuff like that, and that has been helping massively as well. And yeah, it's been a tricky time of it, but the little things, like taking a breath, like a bit of self-compassion, like making cacao, little things like the other day I was in the shop, I quite often try to remind myself that now is the time that I get with my kids. And so if I need to sit down with them, if I need to just be present with them, if I need to just sit and watch TV and not tidy the house that evening because this is the time that I get with my kids, then that's okay, and that is important, and actually more important in the long run than having a clean, tidy house. And I do tidy and I do clean, and so when I take that moment, it's fine, and that's okay. And the other day I was in the shop with my youngest, and she was sort of strolling down an aisle with, like, she'd stopped multiple times on this shopping trip and just gone, nope, I'm not going. And like literally just would stop in the middle of the pavement, in the middle of the shop as we were walking down the aisles and all that. Just kept stopping and just going, no, I'm not moving now. And it'd be like, okay, we do need to try to keep moving because you've said that you're hungry. So if you want food, we need to leave. And in order to leave, we need to move. And in order to get out of the shop, we need to pay for what we've got. And so all of that sort of stuff. And so I was sort of doing all of this, and I was being quite patient. Whilst internally getting very frustrated, I was being very patient on the outside. And that helps her to stay calm, because the moment I start fighting back, it fuels the fire. And in those moments where I have just snapped, it's not been helpful in the slightest. So I was standing there, she'd just started walking again, and she was just like absolutely oblivious. And this lady walked around the corner and looked down on her and just went, she has not got a care in the world. She said, that is such a wonderful place to be. And I sort of, and it was nice to have that acknowledgement. And I sort of, like, for her, and I said, yeah. And I said, I wish I was able to do that. And I thought, like, at the time I thought, well, I do that, but it's just, I have to consciously do that. And she said, yeah, she said, the world's too fast nowadays. And I was like, it really is. And she said, and these are the best days of your life. And I really get that. And I think having that presence of mind in that moment to recognise that, yeah, it's hard. It's a struggle. There's stuff going on and you can't keep up. And like, you're the bad mom sometimes. Like, you get called the bad mom, and I'd rather have daddy and all of that sort of stuff. But actually, I do get to sit and cuddle my kids. They do cuddle me back. We are at a point where we can have a giggle and tell bad jokes and do all of that sort of stuff, and they still want to be around me. And as overwhelming as that can get sometimes, and as hard as that can get sometimes, it's also wonderful that we're in that stage, and it won't last forever. And so I just keep reminding myself that too, and trying to have that presence of mind to remind myself of that. And that's hard. And it's even more difficult when everyone's screaming and you want to just cry, or are already crying because, like, it's just straw that's broken the camel's back. But I think recognising that it's normal and it's a good thing is positive. So on that note, I can hear tiny footsteps upstairs. So we're all going to take a nice deep breath in and release. And I will see you next week.